Hey guys, today we are looking at this install for Joshua. It is a KR Sabers VZ or Ven Zallow. Finally, the last install for Joshua. This one has taken a little bit longer than I expected, but I think it turned out good. I'll have a look at the hilt. The machining is quite nice, as always. KR Sabers does really nice work. It's quite heavy too. There's a lot of brass, a lot of big, heavy, bits to it. It's got the brass, anodized aluminum, and raw aluminum contrasts. Cool control box, which it's not functional. Cool brass greeblies, and even comes with its own blade plug. Brass blade retention. Pretty cool looking pommel. It's an interesting hilt design, I guess. When I received it from KR, it did come pretty badly scratched up, so lots and lots of cleanup involved, and I'm still taking little scratches out of this thing like hourly, as I work on it. Excuse me. But we'll get right into it. So this is installed with a Prizm 5.5 and a Goth chassis, which I'll go into that in a sec. Tri-Cree red, green, royal blue. So your main switch is here. Very nice, like very responsive. Like I hate switches you have to mash them. So that's a very nice one. The auxiliary switch solution for this saber was not readily apparent. I don't even know if it was finished being planned out or whatever when this was released. So the only way to do it without making holes on it that aren't supposed to be there was to have the switch run through from the inside through this little greebly here. And that is your aux switch. So it's kind of funny because the main switch underneath here is this little guy right there. Very small little micro switch. And the one coming up through the middle there is this giant beastly switch. Sits in there like that. Just up high enough to where you don't have to put your fingernail in there. You can, it depresses just fine. No 3D printed solution for that. Just had to kind of wing it and come up with something that would work. I ended up using some of this stuff, which is designed to hold the switches for a different diameter. But this, if you ever happen to be installing one of these, just use this stuff. It works okay. The hilt does have a reveal, and it's supposed to have a J-lock reveal. You slide it in and lock it in like this, which is the top one, is the one that rides in the channel like this, like a vintage Graflex. And there's a little divot where once it's in and locked down, this one will hold it in. I find that, if I can get around the camera, I find that doesn't work as well in practice as it does in theory. And I'll show you. Loosen these. Excuse me. So, hold back slides off. That's just all one piece. You can remove this grip, the pommel and everything, but there's really no need to. This little brass door, I guess, you could modify it further to hinge or magnet on or whatever. It's just very lightly glued in. You can just pop it right out, I'm sure. If you ever wanted to do a crystal chamber or anything like that. So we'll talk about this locking mechanism first. You can see the channel where that top one goes in, slides down, and then this little divot where the second one just locks the whole thing in place. But there is, whoa, knocking my camera over. There is a bit of a lip right there, which I could sand down, and it would use that little mechanism a little bit better. However, I found that with that top screw, when it's sticking out into the hilt a little bit inside there, it tends to catch on this stuff as you're sliding the back part off. So I have not been using it like that as intended. I just slide it all the way on, take, tighten both screws. This is the Goth chassis that was designed for this. It has also been slightly modified. It's not my normal neatness of wiring. I do apologize, but there's just literally nowhere else for these wires to go. This is so small of a chassis. This is a normal width, like 1.24 size. So this one is just, there's no room for anything hardly. So you've got your kill switch here, and then I had to sand these sides down, it wouldn't barely fit. This little slot right here is for your recharge port. Now, when they design these chassis, I think that they only designed them for the components themselves, not necessarily for all the wires and extra stuff that is needed. So this slider had to be pushed so far down in there to clear the top of the plunger there, or the slider switch itself has to be almost flush, and so I had to jam it way down in there. And when I did that, suddenly there's not enough depth here for that whole charge port and the 4 wires that come off it. So I was forced to move the charge port from here all the way up here. So now is just floating. Grab that. I cannot see around this camera. Now it is just floating here. It's a 1.3 millimeter charge port, and it's tested, it works fine. Just above your SD card there, SD card access there. And then after you charge, you can just tuck it in under this, that little lip there. And just tuck it right there, and it stays in there just fine. This was, well, we'll just say I wouldn't have designed them directly on top of one another like that. Maybe one this way and one at 90 degrees, slightly forward or behind or something. 24 mil Saber Essentials speaker, Prizm 5.5. All the extra wiring is visible. Normally it wouldn't be, but like I said, not much room in this build at all for this kind of stuff. But
I'll show you the dark side.
All that being said, it is surprisingly loud for the 24 millimeter speaker. I'm gonna tighten that down real quick. So your blade retention is right there. Alright, I'm knocking my camera over. Not cool. Stop that. Blade plug just pops right out. It's just this nylon with this piece of brass is just press fit right over the top of it. Falls right out. No problem. So I'll take my trusty test blade. Now the blade socket is extremely deep. I can't even get a good angle on that. Tighten that down a little bit. Turn off these terrible overhead lights. There we go. It is cool how the inside of the emitter in here reflects a lot of the light back out. It's a cool effect.
This party's over.
Shadow point. You even get a little shine through right there. That's funny. Very responsive.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Yeah, this one looks really cool in green. Hard to see on camera, but it lights up the whole intersection right there. That's cool. So as per usual with the Prizm, if you hit both buttons, quick press at the same time, you cycle through your colors. Joshua, you already know this. I'll just run over it real quick. Did we go through all of them? Yep. Yeah, Bespin. So that is pretty much it. A little easier to handle and get into than the Ven Saber that I reviewed previously. Put the blade plug back in, just until it stops. There we go. Looks good. So Joshua, you can email me and let me know if you want me to change anything, change any sound fonts, make any kind of last minute changes before I ship this out to you with your other two. And as always, you know, I'm open to comments on the channel. Let me know what you think, good, bad, otherwise. It's a good hilt. It's not my favorite design of hilt, but you know, from just the machining of it, it's well done. It really is well done. And I like how they made it a point to hide all the screws that hold all these things together, except for the 2 set screws. There's no visible hardware anywhere. They're all inside or hidden underneath something, which is pretty cool. Ouch. Alright, that is it, and thanks for watching.